So, The Big Sick, it is a wonderfully romantic. Big Sick is a wonderful romantic comedy, but it's also about family. How did you know that this was the right project that you wanted to sink your teeth into?
Well, when we first got going with The Big Sick, Kumail had just started on Silicon Valley, and he was not really well known as a stand-up comedian yet either. And he came in and just told us the story. And I think in general, as moviegoers, we realize most movies the story isn't that great. There's just very few stories to tell, and there's kind of more great directors and actors and writers than there are great stories. And so Judd and I both kind of walked out of the room well, that movie, we may only get $1 million to fund it, but it's so exciting to try to tell the story of something that, while it's happening, is harrowing, on the edge of tragedy, and to find the humor in that without sacrificing the pathos of it and the terrifying fear of it. And I don't know, I've been through a medical crisis in my family, and there was no way to deal with it except humor at times. And so that challenge, I think, like all the movies that Judd's done, many without me and some with me, we're always trying to honor the real emotions of what's going on and find the humor in it, and without undercutting either. And so this was the ultimate challenge in that respect.
Absolutely. That getting the tone right for this film, paramount importance. Ray Romano, did you know he was capable of walking that line? I mean, had you seen things like Men of a Certain Age and his work in that?
We'd seen everything Ray done. We actually had Ray in the movie Funny People, where Eminem and him have a great scene together, and Seth Rogen, and we just thought Ray hasn't gotten to show what he can do, and so we were excited about the idea of casting him. But it was funny because when we did the table read for The Big Sick, and he does the sleepover date with Kumail, in the room of kind of comedy writers and people who were there to critique us, everybody's laughing through that scene. It's really funny, kind of the oversharing joke, right? And then when we were on the set, we were expecting this to be one of our big comedy scenes, and Ray came and just did the ultra real version of that, and it was somebody who really had an extramarital affair and who had confessed it to his wife, and who was in a year of purgatory, and who didn't know when it was okay to be angry that he wasn't being forgiven when he was told he was forgiven. And it was just so rich, and that was the wake-up moment for me of he's got a lot more to offer than I had ever realized. And I was so psyched. I mean, it was at first jarring, oh, this is supposed to be a funny scene, but it's a very serious scene. And then I was actually thrilled.
It's so nice to find surprises like that. For you as a producer overall, what are the moments that you really glom onto? Is it that moment when you find the script? Is it that moment when the first shot is going off? That moment when you first see the rough cut? What is that moment for you?
The moment where my highest moment, aside from the interview at the PGA Awards.
Well, of course, that goes without saying.
To me, it's, I would say the first time you screen the movie and realize that the movie truly connected in all the ways that you hope it connects, and it's usually in a rough cut, and there's usually more work to do and stuff like that. But I'm not kind of about the moments. To me, what's the most fun about my job is the process and the day-to-day, and just the little moment. I kind of had the silly idea that he would open his girlfriend's iPhone with her comatose thumb, and just yeah, that was an idea of mine. And so and then seeing that on screen and seeing people laugh at that was really fun. And so there's it's kind of more the little things and the process and arguing and convincing each other. And I don't know, this movie was one of the most joyous work experiences I've ever had. And so for me, it was the process was more exhilarating than any particular moment or result.
I want to go back to something you said earlier, which was when you were talking about the movie and sort of where Kumail is in his career, when you had to decide to do it, and the budget. When you're choosing to attach yourself to a project and figuring out budget stuff, how much of an equation goes into your mind about, we think it might make this much or be this big of an audience? How much does that correlate to budget?
Well, it's a gut instinct, you know. I remember when we were doing my first film was Rushmore, and we developed Rushmore with New Line, and then they didn't get the movie and they put it in Turnaround, and so we were just, I was shopping it around, and I was kind of on my own doing that, and I remember just like trying to figure out like, well, these guys won't mind if it costs 10, because the difference between, but Harvey Weinstein I have to tell 7, and I would just tell different people different prices just based on what I thought they might pay. And that actually is the way you kind of come up with budgets. I tend to want to have the people financing the movie feel like they're going to make money. I know a lot of directors just want to have everything they need to make the movie, and they're more concerned like, we need to have what we need because that way we'll make a better movie, and the better movie will make more money. But I kind of feel like there's a kind of gut level understanding of, well, this is the right budget for this movie so that the people financing it feel like, oh, it doesn't have to be like the perfect movie, it can be like a good version of the movie and still do well. So I'm one of those producers who likes to keep the budget low, and the directors tend to disagree.
All right, be warned, if you work with him, know what you're getting into. However, you have a long string of very successful movies, so they should trust your gut.
Well, they should. They should. They should.
Thanks for talking to the PTA. It's great to see you.
Thank you.